how are we? We're so excited for tonight. It feels like it's been a long time coming because it's an event for a book 3 and we've loved the whole series. So first up, we just want to say that tonight we are here to celebrate Marriage and Masti by Nisha Sharma. And we are so excited to have Nisha here with us, as well as her conversation partner, Megan Bannen. Now, Megan wrote The Undertaking of Heart and Mercy and The Undermining of Twyla and Frank. She is technically a Kansian, but we consider her a Missourian. Kansas City and St. Louis, there's some rivalries, but we feel deeply passionate about Megan's books, and also that Kansas City and St. Louis are friends now because she really built the bridge. So grateful to have Megan here, in addition to the woman of the hour, Nisha Sharma. So I will read Nisha's bio and then I will bring on Nisha and Megan. Y'all can ask questions in the comment section. And if you didn't know, we're the Novel Neighbor. So we're in Webster Grove, St. Louis area. We're a women-owned independent bookstore. We sell books of all genres. We also recently opened Open Door Romance, which is our romance annex upstairs of the Novel Neighbor. And it's a super great time. If you're in the St. Louis area and you want a romance novel, or you're not and you want it to be shipped to your door, we sure can help with that. In fact, we'd love to. We know how to use the mail. So Nisha Sharma is a YA and adult contemporary romance writer living in the Philadelphia suburbs with her Alaskan husband and a plethora of animals named after characters in literature. Her books have been included in best-of lists by the New York Times, Entertainment Weekly, Cosmopolitan, and more. Before leaving the corporate world, Nisha spearheaded DEI initiatives at billion-dollar companies. She continues advocacy work by fighting for equity and equality in publishing. When she's not writing, Nisha can be found studying for her PhD in English and social justice. A woman of so many hats. All right, I'm going to bring on Megan and I'm going to bring on Nisha. Y'all, thank you so much for joining me today.
Okay. Thank you for having us.
Of course. I'm going to hop off. Yeah, it's going to be, I'm just excited to watch. I'll hop off. You guys have a conversation and then folks will ask questions and I'll come back on and help ask those out. Okay?
All right.
Thank you.
Thank you. Happy Publication Day Eve, my friend! Woo!
Yay.
I'm so excited because, well, first of all, I love you dearly. Second of all, I feel like I've been with this series from the beginning. I've followed from the beginning. I followed you from 2018,
the very beginning,
when we debuted together, and I'm just so excited to celebrate this with you.
I'm so glad that we could do this together. I remember the first time we met in person, you wore a dress with Shah Rukh Khan's face all over it.
Excuse me. Oh, wait, wrong side.
Oh my God, you're wearing the Shah Rukh Khan
I got the Shah Rukh Khan t-shirt now.
I love that.
I've got you.
I'm so grateful for our friendship.
I am too. And I'm also grateful for the Shah Rukh Khan attire because for some reason it always fits really well. It's very flattering. I feel like I should just wear SRK.
I mean, I won't be mad at it.
I know. God, you're just wonderful. Okay, well, so exciting things are afoot because your third and final book in the If Shakespeare Was an Auntie series, which, by the way, best series title ever, is coming out tomorrow.
Accident, though. Did I ever tell you that?
Yes, you did, but let's tell our audience today.
Yeah, so when I first conceived of this series, my husband and I we were dating at the time, and I went to DC to visit him, and we went to the Folger Library in DC, which has the largest private collection of Shakespeare folios in the world. And so we were talking with one of the Shakespeare scholars who was doing the tour, and he basically was like, one of the things that makes the folios so difficult to figure out, like which one was the original, because there were multiple copies of the same plays, like Shakespeare would amplify like certain jokes depending on the audience that would be in the Globe Theater that night. So, for example, if there was like more like people in the cheap seats, there would be bawdier jokes. But if there were like royalty in the audience, there would be like more political jokes. And so Shakespeare knew how to basically harness like the human experience and just apply it through these like different moments in his plays based on the audience. So like after that conversation, it kind of like turned on this light bulb. It's like that spark to story moment. It's like the story spark that happened. And I called up my editor and I was like, hear me out. What if what if I did something really wild and I like wrote these Shakespeare inspired plays. Like I wrote these like Shakespeare inspired plays and like what if like Shakespeare was like an auntie? And so in our contract, like we didn't know what else to call the series. So we just said if Shakespeare was an auntie, like that's and like then when marketing and sales got it for Dating Dr. Dill, which is the first in the series, they like we had nothing else to put for the series name, so we just used if Shakespeare was an auntie.
Wow. Brilliant. I love it when that sort of thing works out. This is perfect. Like it's perfect. It just captures the feel of the entire series.
It really does.
And so in this series, you are rewriting, again, retelling the Bard's works, like but from a contemporary point of view.
Mhm.
And so the first thing I want to ask about your third and final installment is which play did you adapt and why did you choose it?
Yeah, so I adapted Twelfth Night. And the reason why I adapted Twelfth Night is because I grew up on She's the Man. And I was like, this is the funniest shit I've seen in so long. And then I read the play and then I was like, actually like it could be funnier, you know, because like this is actually a setup for like a ton of different types of hilarious jokes. Like She's the Man like was interesting in the moment in history in time. And like for me, I'm like, it would be to me personally, I would find this hilarious if there were a bunch of South Asians in here. And so that's what I did. I was like, I was inspired by like when I first set up the series, I picked all of the plays right up front, and I picked all the plays based on like these pop culture references that I loved, and also like these comedies that I felt very relatable to my own experience that I felt like could translate well in a South Asian audience. So Dating Dr. Dill was Taming of the Shrew, which is also 10 Things I Hate About You, also pivotal in my childhood. Like Much Ado About Nothing, and Tastes Like Sugar was Much Ado About Nothing. And Much Ado About Nothing, there was like a movie that Kenneth Branagh made, which was like amazing, where Denzel Washington and Keanu Reeves are like half brothers, and I loved it. And so that was like also a moment in like pop culture reference history for me. And then there was She's the Man. So that's kind of like how I selected all of them. It was like what was personal to me and what I felt like I could relate to the most.
I love that. And I was not expecting that answer. That's even better. So like, what are some of the joys and challenges of retelling Twelfth Night for a modern audience?
Well, first of all, it's like there's cross-dressing in the original play. And
Right.
so cross-dressing is like transphobic, especially if like it's like from a person who is not from the queer community. Like I can't do cross-dressing with the nuance it deserves, like because I feel like I'm not from the community, and you know it deserves that kind of like nuance and care and consideration. So like I did not make like Viola dress up as her brother Sebastian. Like that is not something that happened. I do have a queer relationship in the story though. The sister who is Sebastian / Sana is in a queer relationship. She is a lesbian, and she was one of my favorite characters to write in the story. So that's kind of one of the most difficult, that was the most difficult like thing to translate over, specifically as like a cishet, you know, woman. The other piece that I found difficult, was the hero himself, because, Twelfth Night, the hero is like, Duke Orsino is like a wet blanket. Like just wants to be in love, and Deepak has to be a hero. Like I wanted Deepak to be like a hero, And so I had to like basically translate this obsession with love into this obsession with marriage. So Deepak isn't so much like obsessed with love the way that Duke Orsino was. Deepak is like obsessed with the idea of marriage fixing his career aspirations, which works really well in the South Asian context. So those were like the two major things.
Very nice. What was the most fun? Like the thing that was like really fun about taking 12th Night and getting your hands in it?
So there's like tons of pranks that are played in like 12th Night. There's like a bunch of side characters who play a ton of different pranks, and it creates this really like slapstick sense of humor in the story. And so I don't have a bunch of side characters playing pranks in Marriage and Musty, but I do have a lot of slapstick humor to kind of pay respect to the original source text. And I love writing slapstick humor so much. Like the book opens up with a literal shipwreck. And so I think
it's a yacht wreck.
It's a yacht wreck.
A yacht wreck.
And so for me, like that kind of humor like is not for everyone, but like for the purpose of this book, this story particularly, I was like, I have to do it. And I had a blast.
Oh, and that reminds me, for those who did not look up what the word musty means.
It's like musty is like mischief or like playful joy, like let's have a good time. So that's, I mean, I don't know what Google tells you it is. Hold on, I'm gonna look it up now.
Google told me it meant fun.
Yeah, like it's a fun, good time. Yeah.
And it is. Readers, it's a fun, good time. Okay. So the friends to lovers trope is notoriously difficult to pull off. At least I think it is, as someone who recently wrote that.
And did so well. It's
you.
Friends to lovers. Twyla and Frank is like one of my favorite friends to lovers.
You're so sweet, but we're here talking about you.
I know, I'm sorry. It's really hard not to talk about Twyla and Frank.
I am shining the spotlight on you and this cat. Excuse me, ma'am. This cat. Okay.
See, Maddie, we have another pet.
Oh, I barely like this big on my screen. Oh, baby. Gotta have the pet appearances. Okay, friends to lovers. I think it can be hard to write because I feel like audience members, readers can get like impatient. Like it's hard to convince people that there's a reason why these two people haven't gotten together or aren't getting together. So how did you pull it off? Because you did.
Yeah, I got them together in chapter 3.
Ish. Like that's what I'm saying. Is like you kind of the way you talk. I mean, I don't know how not. I don't want to get spoilery, but like
no, it is very difficult. To be honest, Friends to Lovers is like my least favorite trope. It's my least favorite setup because I find it really hard to believe that two people who have been friends for so long don't pursue a romantic relationship or at least try beforehand. And so the way that I set it up is that like Vera is the only one who's self-aware enough to realize that, you know, she's had feelings for Deepak, and Deepak has been completely oblivious because he refuses to think about romance when he's so focused on his career. And it isn't until his career is in jeopardy and he's evaluating the rest of his life that he realizes the person that he wants to be with is the person who like he almost lost. And so like it's one of those it's one of those setups where like you have to really make sure that it's believable that the hero has been distracted this whole time. Like he's in it, but you know, he wasn't aware before it.
Right. And you pulled it off. You did it. Love it. So, okay. Yeah. So, oh my gosh, you guys, I'm like holding out the sheet of paper right here because I'm that lady. Okay. So there are like two themes that really like stood out to me as I was reading the book that I want you to delve into if you were so inclined. And one of them was just about the conflicts that can arise when parents are passing the torch on to the next generation. And in this case, it's like, family business sort of stuff, but I think that can apply to all sorts of things in life, where kind of the next generation is now kind of the generation that's in charge of stuff and things. Like, how does the book go into that, and why did you explore that?
Yeah, I think like complicated family dynamics is something that I've been more and more fascinated with the older I've gotten. I've been very fortunate to have like an incredibly supportive family unit, but that's not always the case with everyone. And I've really wanted to like highlight those complicated relationships in all the different books that I've been writing. I don't want to be like a one note relationship, like kind of a person who like every single book has the same supportive, amazing, positive relationship, because that's not the case for us, which is sad and true. So in this particular story, there are two very different types of relationships with parents. Like, Vera has basically dedicated her entire career to her father's business. And when it comes time to her father basically passing the torch on, he doesn't believe that she will sustain the success and the momentum that he's established, because he thinks she's too soft. He thinks that she has like, he believes in traditional gender roles. He doesn't think that she, despite all of the work and effort and energy she's invested to support him, that she has the backbone to basically run a business on her own. So he would rather sell it off and have that control than to actually risk like giving the business to his children. And so that basically destroys the relationship between Vera and her father. Like, it was already broken, but it's like the final straw. And then with Deepak, like Deepak's parents have only been supportive in his life. They want what's best for him. They're willing to, do whatever they believe like Deepak wants. Like, they never really had those expectations for Deepak to take over, but Deepak has been raised like basically in the boardroom, and his whole thought process is like, all of these people sacrificed so I have the life that I lead today, and my responsibility is to sacrifice my life too. Not really understanding that that kind of sacrifice isn't really necessary, because like the whole purpose of sacrificing like from his parents and his grandparents are for him to have options and choice, and not to be able to like give up the things that he personally wants to do. But the good thing is like Deepak is really passionate about his career. He's just going about it the wrong way.
And I love what you're having to say about like the differences in families, and that's not all Johnny One Note out there, that there's like a wide variety of experience that you can explore throughout the course of 3 novels. And it was in that juxtaposition of Vito's parents with Deepak's parents was just, I mean, it was just so stark,
Yeah.
And I gotta love Deepak's mom creating like a seduction den. She's really supportive.
like a little too supportive. Like,
I got even just thinking about it cracks me up. The pirate is in. So another thing that I thought you explored beautifully in this book is kind of the changes in the evolution of close friendship when some of the friends get married and some of them don't. And like maybe some start to have kids and some don't. And like that's a real big, it's a big shift, especially for people that have been friends for a really long time. So do you want to talk about that a little bit?
Yeah. So I felt it very much so in my like 20s specifically, where like you were all single together and have these experiences and about being single together, and then like one of your friends gets a boyfriend and like they can no longer hang out and like spend time together and whatever, right? And then all of your friends start getting in these relationships, and then their relationships turn into like engagement parties, and then they turn into marriages, and you're now like a bridesmaid to like all of your like married friends, and then they start to talk about like couple vacations, and there's this stratification that happens like as you navigate through these different stages. And like it can be lonely being someone who's single and having friends who are all married, and then when those married friends start having kids, it's like a whole different conversation that starts happening. And so Vera feels this stratification in her relationships because she had these single friends who they would meet like all the time, and now they have to schedule like months out just to spend time together. And these two people who have relationships and are either getting married or are married, like they have conversations with each other that don't include her because they're about weddings or they're about like married life, and it's something that she just can't relate to. And so it feels like very isolating and lonely as like a person in a group of three, specifically. So I really wanted to like highlight the fact that their relationships aren't going to stay the same. Like their relationships are going to go through really difficult growing pains. And I had to really kind of address that through the whole process of writing this particular book.
I think that's something that's really going to resonate with a lot of readers, you know, on both sides of that experience, but especially with people who are like the ones who aren't married.
Yeah.
You know, and you're always kind of like, I got to find a plus one to the wedding or whatever. I just thought that was really sensitive and well done. And I just think readers are really going to appreciate seeing that aspect of themselves in the book.
Yeah, no, I mean, I hope so. I think that was like one of the really difficult conflicts to write about because it felt very personal. But yeah, I hope that is like a piece that resonates the most with like a lot of my readers who have been with me from the start.
Yeah, I mean, I've been married for 21 years, but I remember that, you know? So well done. Okay. Let's talk about humor because these books are funny as hell. And you have in the past made me squirt coffee out of my nose.
I think you texted me too.
I did. I'm like, oh my God, the avocado joke. But they're funny, and I think that's tricky because sometimes I'll read a rom-com, like, and I'll be enjoying the rom-com, but maybe like one character will say about the other, oh, they're so funny, and it's like, are they? Like, are they though? So but your books are like legitimately funny, and so I guess I want to talk a little bit about like, what do you think the role is of humor in your writing?
I mean, I think in this particular trilogy, like I had to amplify the humor just because like they're based off of like comedies, and I had really good source material to work with in that sense. But also I think like what's really important is that like we're not dealing with rocket science here. Like we're dealing with like these cultural norms about dating and relationships and marriage, which like are uncomfortable and like really like, you know, icky sometimes, and also like really important. And that itself, like you in the moment you don't feel like it's funny, but like afterwards it could be hilarious, right? When you're like telling your friends about all of these like terrible dates or telling your friends about like these relationship hiccups. So for me, the way that I kind of approached humor in the story is that I balanced it with the relationship angst, and also like it had to be very serious to them in the moment. Like only the reader could think it was funny. Like they could not think that what was happening to them was hilarious.
Yes,
So
that is the trick to good comedy. And like I come from a theater background, and that is it exactly. Where if you're trying to be funny, you're not going to be funny. But like if you are taking this ridiculous stuff seriously, the audience is going to think it's just hilarious.
yeah.
And that's the trick. And man, let me tell you, I tried so hard to think about how I was going to include like an Imperial March joke, and I'm like, without being spoilery, and I couldn't do it.
What's funny, like I've gotten like a few readers who have read arcs who have reached out to me, and they're like, this hits too close to home, which I'm like, first of all, this is a little TMI in my DM. I appreciate you, but like, you didn't need to share that. And like the second thing that like people have said is like, no, this is like terrible. Why'd you do this? It's super cringe.
What? No, it's super brilliant. Like I read that, I'm like, the heavens opened. Listen, readers.
I mean, I'm like, listen, if like for every person who has told me that that moment was cringe, there has been 3 other people in my DMs going,
no,
we do it.
that was brilliant. And I mean, just pure joy in my heart. So look forward to a little Star Wars moment in the book. Oh, and this leads me to the next point actually really well, which is crafting a good sexy time scene. What do you think goes into crafting a good sexy time scene? Because I'm going to take notes.
I mean, like, I think with sexy time, it's more science for me than it is like intuition. Like if you talk to Tessa Bailey, she's so funny. Like we did It Happened One Summer together. We did the event for It Happened One Summer, and like we basically talked about sexy time. She's like, it has to make me hot, and me, I'm like, I'm so focused on making sure that there's not like multiple references to like limbs, right? Like this woman's gonna have like 7 arms by the end of the scene, right? Because like one is under his head, one is over her head, one is behind her back, like so like for me it's more science than anything. It's like I want to balance the sensory experience, right? I want to balance the dialogue, which has to be like tapered off at the end. I want to balance the emotional development through the story, because what people don't realize is like the characters have to feel differently about each other at the end of the sex scene than they do at the beginning of the sex scene. So it should be like a transformative experience, not just physically, but emotionally as well. And so like I'm thinking about all of that. And if it's also like comedy, or if it's like a comedic moment, like there has to be an element of like, well, why is it important for them to have fun? Like, why is it important for them to let loose? So it's definitely like very strategic. Like these sex scenes are very difficult to write for me, but like at the same time, I find also that they're very powerful as a South Asian woman writing about like South Asians experiencing this like liberating, physical intimacy on page, when there are so few experiences in media for South Asian women to have this kind of liberation that's not like tokenized or stereotyped. So there's like a lot that goes into it that's like not as sexy or fun as people might think.
Well, I love asking that question because like to me, it reads effortlessly. It's almost like I'm just reading a good, God, they're just so good at this. Like, and whereas I am the cringe, right? Like, and
no, not at all.
Oh my God, all I can hear is my Catholic mother in the background going, oh dear, like. So I'm just that's why I'm like, I'm going to take notes. I'm actually using my Sierra fucking Simone pen to take some notes, because to me, like I read, that's just interesting to read. Like they're challenging, it's difficult. There's like and it's like choreography.
Choreography.
And I'm not, some people are really good at that, but like sex scenes and fight scenes, not my strong suit, which is kind of ridiculous for someone who writes fantasy.
I was about to say, you have a lot of experience with fight scenes, though.
And I hate them. And it turns out sex scenes are just as challenging, for the whole reason of like, how many arms do we have now? So it's actually very comforting to hear you say that it's challenging for you when as a reader, it just flows. It just flows. It just feels natural.
It's definitely not intuition for me. Like I said, some authors are like, it's intuition. It's like sexy. It's like, it's hot. It's amazing, and amazing for them. But for me, like I'm like thinking about like the actual placement of the scene, of like the tone, the sensory details. Like I usually like to explore with kink because I don't feel like South Asians have like enough kink representation as well. So there's like some sort of like reference to kink, even if it's like light kink, like that is also something that I always like to figure out a way to incorporate too.
That's so good. Mine is just like jokes and some things are happening. Okay. All right. Uh, so this is okay. So it's a series, and you've got like, and your characters continue series to series. It's just you kind of shine the spotlight on a different couple each time. And so I was curious about how you incorporate all of the characters in all of the books. And is that challenging? Is it fun? Is it a little bit of both?
Yeah, I mean, I will admit this is the one thing that I do find a little effortless. Like for me, like being able to channel like conversation from a dozen different voices is something I've had to do my entire life, like being surrounded by a very big boisterous family. And so like that just has been something that I've incorporated, I think, in most of the books that I've written. There's only been like, I think one, maybe two that are very like isolated incidents that don't have any scenes with an ensemble cast. Um, Tastes Like Shakkar, which is the book prior to Marriage and Musty, I think has the most ensemble cast. Like Marriage and Musty has less of that, but like there's still moments where, of course, like everyone's on page together. For me, it's just making sure that um, the quietest person in the room should have at least two opportunities to speak, and that's like the only rule that I usually follow. And like the loudest person in the room should have the least amount of like physical like movement. So that's how I balance the scene. Are you muted? You might be muted.
There we go. I was trying to unmute and I had bad aim. And I minimized, never mind. Okay, so that is so thoughtful. I'm going to like incorporate that, this idea that the quietest person speaks twice and the loudest person gets less of a kind of physical.
Mhm.
You're so thoughtful. You're way more thoughtful than I am about these things.
No, it's really like it's honestly practice. I think that's what it is. Like for me, I know what I'm good at. And so if I like focus on doing the things that I'm good at, like it just becomes like this habitual for me in a lot of ways. And so with writers, like one of the things that like is advice that I often give is that like figure out like your voice and what you're really good at and what you really enjoy writing about. And for me, it's like I really enjoy ensemble casts. And so that's why I think, that resonates the most with readers.
Yes, especially those of us with big, loud families that we grew up with. I love that. So, okay, in your author's note, which was lovely, and readers, do not skip the author's note. It was wonderful. I'm even going to put on my glasses for this. Hold on, so I can make sure I read it right. You wrote, I also think part of the joy of writing as a member of the diaspora is straddling two different cultures, such as South Asian Punjabi experiences and the American experiences that are more of a direct mirror of Shakespeare. In a way, adapting these narratives was a form of decolonization for me. Ooh, can you expand on that and talk about that a little bit?
Yeah, no. So I didn't really understand like Shakespeare as a form of decolonization until I read this essay by James Baldwin last year called "Why I Stopped Hating Shakespeare."
And you were recently published in a major publication.
Yeah, I wrote about this in People magazine, and it was so great that they let me write about it, and it was published on Baldwin's birthday, which was like even like more special. But this essay was really powerful because it talks about like how when Shakespeare is introduced to like Western to schools, right? When we first learn about Shakespeare, we're taught that Shakespeare is like the pinnacle of English literature. It is the model for like the best English literature. But like what happens is you create this divide between with like marginalized readers and marginalized communities because like the best of the English canon is not important to me. Like that is not representative of who I am, right? It is a part of who I am as an American as well, but it's not like fully representative of me. So what Baldwin says is that what's really fascinating about Shakespeare is that he has the ability to channel these like moments of human connectedness. And so if we read Shakespeare by focusing on these emotional beats, these moments of human connection, like that is the best way to understand Shakespeare. And that is where you can like focus on decolonizing Shakespeare and applying these human connections that he creates through the lens of other cultural experiences. And so that is how I began to view this trilogy for me. I took these moments of human connectedness in these plays that I really loved and I really resonated with in a really uncomfortable way sometimes that I didn't understand. And I was able to fully embrace them by experiencing them through these cultural moments that are personal to me as a South Asian as well.
You are so smart. Talk smart to me. I just, yeah, that just gets I could just listen to you talk all day.
I mean, like, I feel like readers also need to know how incredibly intelligent you are. Like, the first time you told me the inspiration behind your debut YA, I was like,
yeah,
okay.
she's odd.
No, it was amazing.
I'm gonna retell an opera, but I'll set it in the Mongol Empire.
Italian opera in the Mongol Empire. Yeah.
Like, the nice thing about being Megan Bannen is that no one's gonna steal my ideas. Like, I could let it sit on the back burner for years. No one's gonna be like,
oh my gosh, no.
Yeah,
Like
no.
that book was so fun. The blade,
the bird and the blade. But you have to say it very dramatically. The bird and the blade.
The bird and the blade.
Bird and the blade. You're so nice. You're so nice. You're the smart one. Okay. How are we doing on time? Oh, we got like a couple more minutes before we do questions. Okay. So in addition to bidding adieu to the three main couples of the series, we also say goodbye to the aunties and Mrs. W.S. Gupta. What would you like to say to them in farewell?
What would I like to say to them in farewell is don't get into any trouble while you're gone. They were the troublemakers in all three books, and I love them so dearly because they had like moments or experiences that I felt very familiar. Like they didn't represent any one particular person in my life. It was an amalgamation of personalities that were just so familiar to me growing up, and like they felt like comforting and also exasperating, which I loved.
Well, can we tell people about like just a little? Can we tell people that the identity of
is revealed?
Is revealed.
Yeah. You'll find out who Mrs. W.S. Gupta finally is.
That was good.
I had to like rewrite the book when I figured out who I wanted her to be, by the way, because originally I had her as one person, and I had to like when I got to like the second draft, I was like, oh no, this is not going to work, and I basically rewrote the book. Rewrote like chunks of the book. Yeah.
Oh my gosh! In all your spare time.
I was tired and late.
And you know what? That's funny because I actually added a question before you got into the green room when I was talking to Cassie, and we were asking each other like, "How the hell does Nisha do all the things? All like how?" So I'm like, "Oh, I'll add that," and I wrote it down at the bottom. Like, how the hell do you do all the things that you do?
No sleep. No. In all actuality, like I've always treated writing as a job. Like it's and because of that, I've prioritized it in a way that like takes priority over pretty much anything else. So like any like hobbies or like TV time or like reading even like is always second to like work. And so um it's not always great. Like I struggle with, and this is something I tell people, like this is not like super exciting to talk about because for me, because it's always like also about like really having a difficulty like managing boundaries as well sometimes. So what I always try to do now, like now in my late 30s when I'm like starting to really figure things out, which I feel like I'll figure it out and then it'll change and then I'll have to like figure it out all over again, which is just the way life is. But is like I have to like dedicate time to the things that are important to me in moderation. But I have to also prioritize like people first. So so that's pretty much what I do. I like have a tiered system. It's like people I love, like job and work. And then like sometimes mental health comes last, which really is terrible, but like mental health is also in my top 5.
Okay, good. You know what? At least you've got it in the top 5.
Yeah.
So I'm going to ask just one last quick question. We do have a lightning round, but I think we should get to audience Q&A before we do that. So I just want to ask, like, what do you have? Can you talk about anything coming up? What do you have coming up?
I wrote a YA fantasy. And I was like I did it. I never thought I would do it. So I have a romantasy coming out in February. It's like in like 5 months. And it is inspired by Buffy and Supernatural. And it is like Monster of the Week is like a thing, but it's also like South Asian mythology. So it's called Illusions of Fire. It's available for pre-order. You can get it at the Novel Neighbor. And in addition to that, I have an adult romance that's coming out in 2026. Called The Lotus Inn, and it is my first romantic suspense.
Oh,
There's a dead body.
Ooh,
Really exciting. I'm sure I'm gonna come back to rom-coms eventually, sort of. I just don't know when. Right now I'm like taking a little bit of a breather, so you'll probably only see one book from me next year that's trad published. But I need a moment, guys. I've been doing 2 to 3 books a year.
Yeah, you need a moment.
Oh, y'all, I'm geeking out. That was the most fun.
You're the most fun.
I got to get an early copy of Nisha's YA fantasy, and it's sitting on my e-reader just waiting to be delved into, and I'm so excited.
Me too.
I made it sexy. Like I know people are like, oh, like YA, like romantasy. Like I'm like, no, it's a Nisha Sharma title still, so it's gonna be fucking sexy. Oh, sorry. I mean, it's gonna be sexy.
When Megan said shit earlier, I was like, you're fine. All right, we have some audience questions for Nisha, and then we have some for both of you. So let's get into it. Nisha, when you were writing Dating Dr. Dill, did you like know what 3 plays you were going to use before you went into that book? Or did they all kind of like when it was time to write the new book, did you decide on the next play?
No, so I actually sold all 3 of the books like in proposal. So I knew what all 3 books were. I had like envisioned this together. And so this is the first time I'm talking about this like as a set, but the first book is about dating, the second book is about marriage, and the second book is about weddings, and the third book is about marriage. So it's also like 3 phases of relationships. So
I feel like I subconsciously understood this, but you explaining it just like blew my mind.
They
really go together in the order that they're in, but like, wow, that was really, it's just, you're so smart. Who are some of your other favorite South Asian romance novelists who write open door romance?
Oh, that's a really good question. So Nana Kumar, who had a debut out this year, who's amazing. love her. Sonali Dave writes Open Door. Alicia Rai writes Open Door. Farrah Heron just wrote her first Open Door, I think. So highly recommend Farrah Heron. Who else? There are a few that are coming up in the like next couple of years, which are great, who are South Asian authors. So I usually like talk about them. So follow me, like, or do you know who else you can follow? There's South Asian influencers who are incredible. Bookworm Bullet is one who like talks about South Asian books all the time. She's incredible. Sanjana Bhaskar talks about it. Sami talks about it. So they're all like TikTok and Instagram. So if you follow them, you'll get like the new debuts who are coming out who also write more open door South Asian romance.
I love this. Have you ever thought about doing any other reimaginings and retellings? And I guess that goes for both of you. I'd love to hear, like, Megan, if you've done an opera, are you considering any others? Specifically, Nisha, they said that they'd love to hear your take on Pride and Prejudice.
Oh, yeah. So some people know this, but so I have an MFA and my thesis was on Mr. Darcy as the alpha male archetype for the modern day hero in contemporary romance. And so I've always wanted to do a Pride and Prejudice reimagination. I may do it in the future. I feel like there's just a lot of Pride and Prejudice in the market right now that's so fantastic that I feel like we need a little bit of a break. So in the future, I'm not going to say no because I've spent like years of my life studying Pride and Prejudice. So I know it's like very close to my heart, but just not yet.
Megan?
Oh God, I don't know. I have a retelling I really want to do, but this is one where I don't want anyone else to get it, so I'm not going to tell you what it is. It's like because this is one where someone might take it if they realize it's in the public domain.
Listen,
Is it Winnie the Pooh?
And how did you? Yes, it's romance Winnie the Pooh.
Listen, you can make Winnie the Pooh work. Listen, like Katie Robert made like all of the Disney ones work.
I mean, fair.
I'm just really impressed that you were able to do that because I've never I've never played anything cool in my life. Nisha, if there was a TV movie adaptation, Megan as well, of your books, are there any characters or are there any actors that you would like to see play your characters?
I do fan castings for all of my like Shakespeare books. And I have I have like a bunch of Bollywood actors that I think of, but I would want them to be played by like American Desi actors, like Desi actors in the diaspora. So like who knows? Like if anyone knows anyone in Hollywood, like have Netflix call me and we'll have a conversation and maybe we'll do like open casting and we'll figure it out together.
I love this.
Okay, so I live in a cave, and I don't know the names of like any actors at all.
Yeah.
Like someone's like, and I don't want I see like 5 movies a year. I'm just pathetic. And so I haven't like people are like, oh, you know, so-and-so's in this movie. I'm like, I haven't seen it. I don't know who you're talking about. So I did finally ask people who watch movies to fan cast The Undertaking of Heart and Mercy. All right. So I think Alexander Skarsgård for Heart, and I actually do know who that is. Mercy is Ashley Graham. Duckers is Caleb McLaughlin, who's in Stranger Things. Zeddy is Noah Centineo. Lillian is Annie Murphy. I actually basically it's like Schitt's Creek meets what else? Another show. Oh, Parks and Rec. Noah Reed would play Danny. Jim O'Hare from Parks and Rec would play Roy. Karen Robinson would play Alma. Holly Hunter is Diane. And Adam Scott is Nathan. Thank you. Oh, and who's the guy in that zombie show?
Rahul Kohli?
No. Walking Dead. Walking Dead. Middle-aged, very handsome man with the beard. 3 names. I'm just blanking. Anyway, he would be Frank if I ever Twilight.
Jeffrey
Frank.
Dean Morgan.
Yes.
Oh,
Frank. That would be Frank. This is what I'm saying. This is why I love when anytime someone's like fan cast something, I'm like,
Oh, I love this, Morgan. I'm in on this. This is great. Okay. So to both of you, when you are writing a love interest, what do you think makes a love interest hot?
he's taller than I am.
Yeah, this is where like my toxic traits come in.
I
I'm
know.
like everyone knows Nisha's attracted to like douchebags at this point.
Listen, I think, but there's a difference between like the romance love and like love and reality.
Yeah.
You
By the way,
know?
my husband is not a douchebag.
Yeah, exactly.
I just want to make that very clear.
Mine is very nice. He's heating up pizza for dinner tonight.
Love that. Amazing. Okay, we have another one. Sorry, I'm pulling up. There are two different commonplaces. Do you guys write to music? And if so, what's on your playlist / do you make playlists for your books?
I do. Yeah, they're all on Spotify. They're also linked on my website. I don't write to music, but I brainstorm to music. So music is very like influential in the way that emotional beats are kind of built into my scenes.
Love that.
Sometimes it's fine. I think some books kind of lend themselves for me for a soundtrack where I'll listen to the same song over and over again while I'm writing a particular scene because that song goes with the scene. So like Heart and Mercy it was very music driven for some reason. And my second book was very Soul Swift, which no one's heard of, but it's a good book, was very music driven. But like the book I've just finished, The Undercutting of Rosie and Adam. It's like they're all, it's another underbook. The Undercutting of Rosie and Adam, which comes out next year, ended up being a really visual book. And so I needed to get on like Pinterest and put together like I just needed to like see it to organize my thoughts. So I think it just depends on whatever helps me organize my brain in a way that's going to make a story happen.
I love that.
Hand talking.
Which of your characters, question to both of you, do you personally relate the most to?
Oh.
Do you want to go first?
Yeah, you go first. This is your party.
So I don't have one particular character that I relate to the most because I think all of my characters have like maybe like bits and pieces of like moments of my life or like feelings that I've experienced myself. So like there are characters that I wish I was more like because like they're fierce and they're independent and like like not as chaotic as I can be, but I think it's like less about like who I resonate with the most and like more about like what feelings of mine have made it into each of these heroines that I've written for this series.
Absolutely.
Yeah, what Nisha said. I mean, because like I feel like all of my characters are kind of like a little weird little piece of myself that I've kind of blown up, right? Mm-hmm. So like I always tell people I am not Twyla. My husband is not Doug, her horrible deceased spouse. My husband's not Frank either. Like I don't write people into my books, but like there's like a core of just kind of the middle-aged, invisible mom wife experience in Twyla. But I would hesitate to say that that's the character I'm most like. Probably, again, my second book, Soul Swift, there are two main characters, Gelia and Tavik. And I think Gelia is kind of Megan's little sensitive inside, and Tavik is Megan's jazz hands personality on the outside that cracks jokes. They're kind of like the two parts of Megan on a plate.
I love that. All right. I think that we have time for some rapid fire quick questions.
Megan? All right. Nisha, are you ready for the lightning round?
Let's do it.
Okay, here we go. Number 1, best Bollywood adaptation of Shakespeare.
It's the one with what's his name in it? Who did Othello? It's the Othello Bollywood one. Hold on. I'll tell you in a second. Hold on. It's not Omkara. It's the other one. Oh my goodness. I'll tell. Oh, I got it.
I'm writing it down.
Haidier or Hidier. It's I don't know how to pronounce it actually. Haider.
Yeah. Okay. I thought it was my husband's favorite. We'll have to watch that one. Okay. Lightning round. Chum Chum sweets or oh god, gulab. Is it gulab jamun?
Gulab jamun. Oh my god! Of course, gulab jamun. 100%.
Okay.
Chum chum can get dry.
Okay. Good to know. All right. Most powerful pantsuit color, which is so appropriate right now, huh?
Hot pink.
Hot pink. Something every mother should include when creating a seduction scene for her offspring and their spouse.
Condoms.
But that was okay. Never mind. That's like not what's supposed to happen.
Listen, it's too early. There's no way that like if a mom is putting together a seduction room, like they're not ready.
She wants grandbabies. Okay. Your standard order at a cute cafe with a blue awning.
Oh, almond croissant and caramel latte.
Delish. Most swoon-worthy thing a man can say to a woman.
Oh, that's a good one. There's like so many.
There's
There's
so
so many
many.
because we're romance writers, right? So
Right.
like,
So for me, it's like, hey, honey, let's get takeout.
I mean, like for me, it's like I want to hear about your day. Tell me everything that happened today.
Oh,
Or it's like, like I want to buy something special for you. Like, let's go out and like you pick where we're going. Or like, is there anything I can do to make you feel better? Or like if you're sick, it's like I ordered takeout and I also put on your favorite movie and like
wow. And I'm over here going, hey babe, I'll do the dishes. I installed this light fixture under the cabinets.
I mean, listen, in my marriage, that is like, those are like turn on words.
Those are serious. Okay, and finally, song most likely to be found on your F Everyone playlist.
Oh, that's a good one.
Mm-hmm.
Right now it's FU.
Appropriate.
Which is like, I think it's not just right now. It's been on since like it came out years ago.
It's rightful place.
Yes.
Oh my god.
Well, congratulations, you've made it through the lightning round.
Oh.
Love you.
This is the most fun. Nisha, congratulations on Marriage and Masti.
Thank you so much, Megan. Thank you so much for doing this with me. Like, I adore your books, and I am so happy that we got to like pre-launch with you and the novel neighbor. I'm like, I will make it out in person.
Yes.
Someday.
I feel like this conversation was a long time coming, and now we have to get you to St. Louis.
Know.
You have to come.
I know.
I will drive the other direction, and we will meet right there.
Yes, perfect.
Great.
I feel great about it. Okay, everybody, thank you so much for tuning in. Marriage and Musti's on shelves tomorrow. You can pick your copy up at Novel Neighbor /Open Door Romance. We also have copies of Undermining of Twyla and Frank. And so we're very excited. Congratulations to both of you. And we'll see everybody so soon.